Describe and discuss the metabolic changes. So, meron ng physio, meron ding biochem. And then, describe and discuss the principles of immune and inflammatory response to shock. So, merong immunology. Discuss and describe the diagnosis, management of the different forms of shock. Then, describe and discuss the endpoint of resuscitation. So, as a historic background, okay, shock were first described and categorized by a surgeon. So, this is Alfred Blalock. So, he was the first one who described and categorized shock. But initially, he categorized this in 4 types. No? So, first is the hypovolemic shock. So, by the term itself, it is related to the amount of volume that is being lost. Then vasogenic, in correlation with the um, effect of the blood vessel. Then the third is cardiogenic, in relation to the pump, which is the heart. And then fourth is neurogenic. Okay. But today, there are already 6 types of shock. And we will discuss them later, no? Together with the management. Okay. So let's first define shock. So what is shock? Shock is the failure to meet the metabolic demands and the consequences it ensues. So meaning to say, meron lang shock kapag hindi na-meet yung demands nung cells, nung ating mga tissues. Then yung mga mangyayari sa kanya. And the central component is there is a decreased tissue perfusion. So ibig sabihin, kapag hindi nakakarating yung oxygen, yung blood, kasi siya yung nagdadala ng oxygen, okay, as well as yung mga substances na kailangan natin, especially the cells, doon nagkakaroon ng shock. Okay. And there are core principles with regards to management ng shock. So ano-ano yung mga kailangang malaman natin, no? Paano makaka-survive when a patient is in shock. So if you already had your basic life support, so either kung halimbawang nasa medical field kayo, probably you already had your BLS, basic life support. Tinuturo yung tinatawag na ABCDE, no? So kasama yan dyan. So first is to control the airway. So yun, kailangan nyo nung, halimbawa may obstruction, there is already obstruction in the airway. So you control that. Either you give oxygen or you intubate the patient. Okay. Next is control the active hemorrhage. And this is the paramount priority. The reason why is that even if you deliver oxygen in the airway, if the blood cannot carry the oxygen to the tissues, bali wala yung airway. Okay, so ibig sabihin nun, i-control yung hemorrhage yung dugo. Then next is volume resuscitation. So these principles is meant to replenish the volume. Kumbaga, nauubos yung dugo mo no? So you have to put in volume so that the heart could pump properly and push the blood to the tissues. So this is being done while the operative control of bleeding is being achieved. So halimbawa, may nagble-bleed, naglaslas siya. No, or there is a bleeding vessel. Okay. So you control the bleeding by putting pressure, then you infuse fluids. So that is volume resuscitation. Okay. Now, if there will be adequate correction of the hypoperfusion, this will lead to increased morbidity and mortality. Usually dito namamatay yung patient. If nagkaroon siya ng blood loss tapos hindi mo napalitan, so syempre yung heart hindi siya gaano magpa-pump na maayos kasi there will be decrease in venous return. Okay. So, magkakaroon na ng cascade yun and eventually yung patient, pwede yan magkakaroon ng severe deficit or mamamatay siya. But also take into consideration, no, yung letter E, excessive fluid resuscitation, meron ding consequence yun. So, it may lead to exacerbate bleeding. Halimbawa, nag-clot na yung vessel. So, it stops the bleeding. Now, you increase the blood pressure, no? Masyado kang maraming in-infuse na fluid. So, pwedeng mag-bleed lalo yung pasyente kasi matatanggal yung clot. At the same time, if there is already yung blunt abdominal blunt trauma, lalo na yung sa ulo, no? Head trauma. If you increase the fluid, magkakaroon lalo ng cerebral edema 'yon kapag ka masyadong excessive ang fluid resuscitation. So dapat controlled siya. Okay? So yung letter E is in relation with the damage control. Okay? Damage control resuscitation, and we will discuss that later. Okay. By the way, if you have any question, no, feel free to kung magre-raise kayo ng hand, medyo baka hindi ko makita. So probably you just sabihin niyo lang na, "Excuse me sir," tapos you just sabihin ko, isingit kayo. Okay? Sige. So we'll go now to the pathophysiology of shock. Okay, this is the pathway leading to shock. So there are two effects that is being done by the mechanism. Okay. So ano 'yon? So one is cellular effect and the other one is direct effect. Okay. So the cellular effect, usually you have two mechanism. First is yung traumatic shock. Okay. In traumatic shock, you have tissue injury, and this tissue injury will release substances. So usually yan tinatawag yung DAMPs or damage associated molecular pattern. Also in this yung sa cellular level, dito din papasok yung pathway in relation to your sepsis or your septic shock or vasodilatory shock. So there is disruption of host microbe equilibrium. So papasok diyan yung mga endotoxin katulad ng lipopolysaccharide, no? Ganyan, and bacterial products. Okay. In comparison, kapag cardiogenic shock, which is the pump failure, this is direct effect. Okay. So syempre pag hindi nagpa-pump, decreased tissue perfusion kaagad siya. Pag neurogenic shock, no, in relation halimbawa spinal cord injury, no, magbabasodilate, decreased perfusion siya, as well as yung hypovolemic shock or hemorrhagic shock. So syempre wala ka ng blood, magkakaroon ng decreased perfusion. Okay. Now, there are phases with regards to the state of shock. So meron tatlong phases. So there is what we call compensatory, merong decompensatory, and kapag hindi na-reverse, no, this will lead to irreversible phase. So yung first phase is the compensatory phase. The body will try to compensate for the initial blood loss. So pag nawalan ka ng dugo, syempre magkakaroon ng reaction yung body. And this is being done via the neuroendocrine response in order to maintain the hemodynamic stability. Okay. Kapag if there will be already a derangement or changes already in the vital signs, no, at nagre-regress siya, you're already in the decompensation phase. So in the decompensation phase, there is already continuous hypoperfusion. So if the oxygen cannot be delivered to the cells, magkakaroon ng cellular death and injury. So yan yung ibig sabihin ng compensation phase. And there will be cascades of changes katulad ng microcirculation parenchymal tissue damage, inflammatory cells activation. Okay? So, if there will be perpetuation of hyperperfusion, so lalo siyang tumatagal in ischemia, plus the reperfusion injury, there will be a compromise in the function of the vital organ system. So, dyan napapasok yung tinatawag na vicious cycle of shock. So, ano yung vicious cycle of shock? So, this pathway will tell us, no, if there will be decreased cardiac output, kasi nga halimbawa naubusan ng dugo, syempre decreased cardiac output. So what will happen is you will have decreased tissue perfusion. Konti ngayon yung dugo pumupunta sa tissue mo eh. Syempre, if you have decreased tissue perfusion, konti din yung pabalik na blood dun sa heart. So you have decreased venous return, and you have cellular hypoxemia, okay? As well as decreased tissue coronary perfusion. So konti rin yung babalik dun sa tissue mismo ng heart, no? And of course, yung cellular hypoxemia will lead to acidosis and intracellular fluid loss kasi mag-shift ng fluid from intracellular to extracellular. So all of this mangyayari, it will again decrease cardiac output. So ikot lang siya ng ikot. Kaya kailangan i-correct mo siya to break the cycle, no, vicious cycle of shock. And of course, in addition to that, if you have decreased tissue perfusion, you have cellular parenchymal injury. Okay. And you will have this endothelial activation, microcirculatory damage, and cellular aggregation. So may another ikot na naman siya. So yun ang nangyayari, no, in the vicious cycle of shock. So in this pathway, you have to break this cycle in order that the patient could arrive in the compensation shock and the patient could survive. Okay. So if there will be persistent hypoperfusion, so hindi mo siya na-correct, you will have extensive parenchymal and microvascular injury. Okay. And there will be volume resuscitation failure. So kung hindi mo siya na-reverse, mamamatay yung pasyente. This will lead to death of the patient. Okay, this is a graph showing you the rat hemorrhagic shock model. So in this side, you will see the arterial blood pressure, no, 40 millimeters mercury hanggang 80. And this is the amount of blood loss. No? So nag-experiment sila sa daga. So kung ang blood loss is 0%, yung survival ng daga 100% kasi wala na walang dugo eh. No. But as there is increase in blood loss, lumiliit yung survival. So if the rat or the individual has 50% blood loss, usually it will die, no? 100% patay sila kasi yung survival rate niya is 0%. So usually namamatay. And the higher the blood loss, no, the faster it will get to from the compensated to the compensation and the irreversible phase. Okay, yan ang sinasabi ng graph na to. Now, we already know that once we enter the shock, we will enter the compensation phase. So the body will try to compensate via the neuroendocrine and organ-specific response. So ano ang pinaka-goal ng body natin in this phase? The main goal is to maintain the heart and brain perfusion. Yun ang priority ng katawan. Ano? Kasi once the heart is gone or the brain is dead, wala na, patay na yung tao, di ba? So, ang main goal ng katawan is to maintain the heart and brain perfusion. Yun ang primary, kahit na mawala na ibang parts ng katawan. Basta importante, mabuhay yung heart and lungs. Heart and brain. Okay? This is at the expense of other organ system. So, paano nangyayari yon? This could happen via the peripheral vasoconstriction and fluid excretion inhibition. So, ibig sabihin, yung mga blood vessel natin nagko-constrict and hindi iihi para ma-decrease ang water loss. So, what are the mechanism? You have your autonomic control of the peripheral vascular tone and cardiac contractility. So, bibilis yung heart, magko-contract yung blood vessel. So, that is via the autonomic. So, nervous system. Another is hormonal naman. So, you will release hormone due to stress and volume depletion. So, dyan napapasok yung other types of hormone we will discuss later. And also the local microcirculatory mechanism. These are organ specific and it regulates regional blood flow. Example of this, halimbawa, yung gastrointestinal tract. Okay, usually may blood papunta sa GIT. But in cases of shock, magdi-decrease ngayon yung blood flow papunta sa gastrointestinal tract in reference to the heart and brain. Okay. So, yung pathophysiology para yung circuit, no? Meron yang afferent, may center, tapos then may efferent. Okay. So, paano nangyayari ngayon yan? So, there is a response arc. So, the initial stimulus, paano magsisimula yung response is, kailangan may stimulus muna. So, the initial stimulus is the blood loss. Okay, and the response will depend on the volume and the rate. Siyempre, kung if you have higher blood loss, mas marami kang dugo na wala, mas mabilis yung response. Okay. And the rate, kung mas mabilis mawala, okay, mas mabilis ang response. Okay. So there is an afferent signal. So parang reflex arc, no? So from the periphery going to the central nervous system and then to the effector. Okay, so yan yung reflex arc natin. Okay, so the role of the effector response is to expand the plasma volume, maintain tissue perfusion or peripheral perfusion, and oxygen delivery. And of course, restore homeostasis. Okay. Other stimuli aside from blood loss, pain, no? You also have your hypoxemia, hypercarbia, acidosis, infection, changes in temperature, emotional arousal, and hypoglycemia. These are all stimuli to the neuroendocrine response. Okay. This has been taught to you in neuroanatomy, di ba? So you have your pain receptors. So pag may sugat ka, masakit yon. And this will travel via the spinothalamic tract. And of course, that will go to the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis and the autonomic nervous system. So when it goes there, it has a direct sympathetic stimulation of the adrenal medulla, and this will release the catecholamines. So ano-ano yung mga catecholamines natin? You have the epinephrine and norepinephrine. Okay, so yan yung i-release niya. Okay. So ano pa ang ibang afferent signals? So volume receptors. These are located in the chamber of the heart. So when there is a decrease in chamber pressure and wall stretch, magre-release siya ng signal. Ano pa? Ano pa mga receptors? You have your aortic arc receptors and carotid bodies. They respond to pressure change or stretch in the arterial walls, and they respond to larger reduction in intravascular volume. So once nag-decrease yung volume sa loob ng blood vessel, na masesense siya ng mga receptors in the aortic arc and the carotid bodies. We also have our baroreceptors. So these are centrally mediated constriction of will lead to centrally mediated constriction of the peripheral blood vessels. Okay. Another are your chemoreceptors. So seen in the aorta and carotid bodies. So aside from stretch, meron din tong receptors na sensitive sa oxygen tension, hydrogen ion, and carbon dioxide level. Okay. Once they are stimulated, they will cause coronary vasodilatation. So, siyempre, preferential blood flow, mas maraming blood pupunta dapat sa heart. Bradycardia. So, parang hindi siya masyadong nagmamadali. And splanchnic skeletal circulatory constriction. Okay, para yung blood mas pupunta sa heart and brain. Other substances that are being released as afferent signals, you have your histamine, cytokines, echonocytes, and endothelins. Okay. These are in relation to the inflammatory response. So they act as afferent impulse to induce host response. Okay. So aside from yung neuroendocrine, meron ding inflammatory. So yan yung mga related sa inflammatory response. Now, when the body already sense the changes, so from the afferent, magkakaroon ngayon ng efferent. So meaning to say, ito na yung mga responders ng body natin. So ano yung mga magre-respond? First is the heart and the blood vessel, no? The cardiovascular response. So paano nangyayari yon? So once na-sense yung hemorrhage, there will be decrease in venous return. Siyempre, wala nang blood na ganun pupunta sa heart. And you will also have decreased cardiac output. Diba? So, tinuturo sa atin sa pisyo yan eh. So, once there is decreased cardiac output, para mag-compensate, anong gagawin ni heart? There will be increased heart rate and contractility. Okay. And you will have vasoconstriction. Para ngayon, makompensate niya yung oxygen papunta sa tissue. But the problem is, kapag mas malakas ang contraction at saka mas mabilis, there will be increased myocardial oxygen consumption. So, syempre, mas mapapagod ngayon si heart kasi nagko-compensate siya. There is also increase in sympathetic tone. Okay? So, this is via the catecholamines. So, nagpipick yung catecholamine release within 24 to 48 hours. So, ano ang effect ng sympathetic? So, this is biochem, no? So, you will have hepatic glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis. Okay, para tumaas yung glucose. Aside from the liver, yung skeletal muscle natin, we will have our muscular glycogenolysis and stimulate the release of glucagon. Ang inhibition lang is you will have inhibition in insulin release. So lahat ito is geared toward increase in glucose in the body. Okay. So yung kanina is the neuroresponse. So hormonal response naman, because of the stress, this will activate the hypothalamic pituitary adrenocorticotropic axis. So via the release of the corticotropic releasing hormone from the hypothalamus, which stimulates the release of the adrenocorticotropic hormone, which stimulates the adrenal gland to release cortisol. So ang stress hormone kasi natin is cortisol eh. And remember, cortisol has an synergistic effect with the epinephrine and glucagon. So lahat sila will induce catabolic state. So yun, no. So ano effect ng cortisol? Gluconeogenesis, insulin resistance. So lalo maperpetuate yung hyperglycemia. Other effect ng cortisol, you have your proteolysis, lipolysis, and of course water and sodium retention in the kidney. So yan yung mga effect ng cortisol. Aside from those, no, related sa blood volume in the kidney, one response is the renin-angiotensin aldosterone system. So yung RAAS. So because of the decrease in blood volume, renin is released. So ano yung mga nag-stimulate ng release yan? Yan, decreased renal artery perfusion kasi konti na yung blood. Better adrenergic stimulation because of the sympathetic effect. And increased renal tubular sodium concentration. Okay. So once the renin is released, it will convert yung angiotensinogen in the liver. So yung liver kasi natin nagpo-produce siya ng angiotensinogen, which is an inactive enzyme. Mako-convert yan into angiotensin 1. Itong angiotensin 1 naman, pupunta siya sa lungs. And it will be converted by the angiotensin converting enzyme to angiotensin 2. Bakit kailangan siya i-convert sa angiotensin 2? Because angiotensin 1 is usually has no significant functional activity. So halos wala siyang effect. Pero ang angiotensin 2 is the one that is the potent vasoconstrictor, kaya nagkakaroon ng vasoconstriction. Okay? Other effect ng angiotensin 2 is the secretion of the aldosterone. Okay. So also, it stimulates the release of ACTH and ADH. So lahat yung hormone na yan is geared towards preservation of the intravascular volume. Okay. Katulad ng aldosterone, anong effect niya? It stimulates the renal water and sodium reabsorption. Okay? Para ngayon hindi ka iihi. Kasi pine-prevent niya yung pag-release ng water para ma-preserve niya yung volume. Okay. In return, dahil inabsorb niya yung sodium, itatapon niya si potassium. There will be potassium excretion. Yun naman vasopressin or your antidiuretic hormone. Okay. This is being stimulated, yung release niya, by the hypovolemia and hyperosmolarity. Diba? Kasi si aldosterone, diba? Sinipsip niya si water, si sodium. So magkakaroon ka ng hyperosmolarity dahil sinipsip niya si sodium. Okay? So marirelease din yung ADH. No. Another is that it is being released by the or stimulated the release by the epinephrine, angiotensin 2, yung kanina, pain and hyperglycemia. So anong effect niya ng antidiuretic hormone? Decrease water and sodium losses. So the same, no? And they are potent mesenteric vasoconstriction. So ito yung sinasabi natin kanina na organ specific, no? Because the heart and the brain needs blood. So magkakaroon ka ng mesenteric vasoconstriction. So yung blood vessel mo sa GIT, magko-constrict siya kasi hindi siya kailangan at the moment yung blood sa GIT. Also increase liver gluconeogenesis and glycolysis. So mayroon siyang effect in relation to the catabolic state. Okay. So in other type of shock, katulad ng septic shock, no, yung mga nagsisepsis, yung mga may bacterial contamination sa katawan, merong endotoxin, and this endotoxin has a direct effect on the vasopressin. It directly stimulate the release of vasopressin. Okay. And of course, aside from that, yung pro-inflammatory cytokines. Okay. So with regards naman sa circulatory homeostasis, okay, tinuro sa atin sa physiology yung Frank-Starling's curve. So tinuro yan sa atin, no? Probably ang nagturo sa atin si Dr. Valerio, no? Siya yung mahilig magturo ng heart eh. So Frank-Starling curve describes the force of ventricular contraction as a function of preload. So ano yung sabihin nun? Yung preload, yan yung feeling pagpuno ng heart coming from the circulation. So in relation to venous return. So kapag marami kang blood na pumunta sa heart, may stretch yung muscle, mas malakas yung pump mo. So yun yung preload. Afterload naman, that is the force that resists myocardial work during contraction. So ito yung peripheral vasoconstriction. It is related to the diastolic pressure. Okay? Yung preload naman, related yan sa systolic kasi sa lakas ng pump niya, contraction niya. Okay, yan lang naman yun eh. Ganun lang naman kasimple yung uh, preload and afterload. Regarding microcirculation, okay. Usually we have vasoconstriction in hemorrhage. So, yun ang difference, no? Sa different types of shock. Kapag may volume loss tayo, o in hemorrhagic shock or hypovolemic shock, ang mga blood vessel vasoconstrict kasi kailangan niya mag-preserve. In comparison, sa sepsis and neurogenic shock, walang blood loss yun. Okay? But the problem is there is vasodilatation. So dahil lumaki yung capacitance vessels, babagsak yung blood pressure mo. So yan yung mechanism ng sepsis and neurogenic shock. Okay? So yun yung difference. So tandaan niyo yan. So leads to diminished capillary perfusion, endothelial swelling, dysfunction, and recruitment of inflammatory cells, your polymorphonuclear cells and platelets. Okay. Question so far? Naintindihan nyo ba yung regarding the pathophysiology ng shock?
Yes po, Doc. Clear naman po.
Sige. So, basta yung pathophysiology, may relation siya, may cascade yon. So, may relation yung hormonal effect, may relation yung vascular effect. Okay. So, we go now to the metabolic effects. Okay. So, yung cellular metabolism na tinuturo sa biochem is based primarily on the hydrolysis of ATP. Very important kasi yung ATP for cellular function. And we all know that if we will have a decrease in oxygen, magkakaroon ng decrease ng oxidative phosphorylation, di ba? So, because of this, walang oxidative phosphorylation, we will have slow ATP generation. So, magkakaroon ngayon ng problem sa cellular level. Okay? So, paano mangyayari ngayon dyan? Magko-compensate ngayon yung metabolism. We will go into anaerobic metabolism and glycolysis. And remember, in glycolysis, we only produce 2 ATP from 1 glucose. Kaya nga kailangan niyang tumaas yung glucose sa system eh. Kasi kulang yung ATP. Kaya kailangan tumaas yung glucose para dumami yung ATP natin dahil insufficient yung ATP. The problem is in anaerobic, yung pyruvate magiging lactate and this will end up having intracellular metabolic acidosis. So yun ang nagiging problema naman. Gusto mo mag-compensate na dumami ATP mo, magkaka-acidosis ka naman. So that is the problem with shock. And of course, it has been taught to us in physiology, no, in the cellular metabolism, there are ATP-dependent cellular process. So, kailangan ng ATP for this function, very important function. Ano-ano ito? You have the cellular membrane potential, di ba? Yung sodium-potassium pump. Kung masisira yun, mamamatay si cell. Ano pa? Synthesis of enzyme and protein. So, we have to have energy. Cell signaling. Okay. DNA repair mechanism. So, very important yan kasi kung walang DNA repair, mamamatay din yung cell. No? Magkakaroon ng apoptosis and cellular death. Okay? So, the decrease in intracellular pH also influence the vital function of the cell. Okay? Because of the cell signaling, especially yung intracellular cell signaling. So, as been discussed earlier, yung catecholamine nare-release siya. So, ano yung effect? Again, as i-repeat lang natin, we have our hepatic glycogenolysis, gluconeogenesis, ketogenesis, proteolysis, lipolysis. So, these are increased by your catecholamine. Other substance, your cortisol, glucagon, and vasopressin. Okay, they have catabolic effect. And epinephrine, Okay, stimulate the release of glucagon and inhibit insulin. So talagang catabolic ang kanyang effect. Now, with regards sa cellular level, we will have a cellular hypoperfusion. And there is a term called oxygen debt. Parang utang. Okay. So what is oxygen debt? This is the deficit tissue oxygen over time. So pagka mas matagal na walang oxygen tissue, mas mataas yung oxygen debt. Okay. Kasi normally, in normal circumstances, the cell can repay the oxygen debt during reperfusion. So halimbawa, span of 5 minutes na wala ng oxygen. So yung ikli nung time na yon, kapag ka nagkaroon ng reperfusion, mababawi niya yung oxygen debt. And oxygen debt correlates with the severity and duration of hyperperfusion. So pag mas matagal yung oxygen debt, mas maraming injury ngayon ang mangyayari and mas severe ang kanyang injury. Why? Because in cellular hypoperfusion, you will produce oxygen radical and nitrogen radical. You will release the heat shock proteins, vascular endothelial growth factor, inducible nitrous oxide synthase, hemooxygenase, and cytokines, which are related to the inflammatory response. Okay. Because of that, we will go now to the immune and inflammatory response. So first is what we call damage-associated molecular patterns or DAMPs. Itong DAMPs na ito, very prominent siya sa one type of shock, which is the traumatic shock. Okay. So we will discuss that later, no, in traumatic shock. Pero ito yung nasa center ng traumatic shock. Okay. So what are DAMPs? These are endogenous molecules capable of signaling the presence of danger to surrounding cells and tissue. So these are recognized by cell surface receptors to affect intercellular signaling that primes and amplifies the immune response. So basically, ang ginagawa ni DAMPs, ina-amplify niya ang immune response. So imbis na simpleng immune response lang, mas mataas ngayon yung response niya. Kaya nagkakaroon ng increased damage. So ibig sabihin, nagiging kalaban pa ng katawan ng tao yung immune response niya. Because this is very amplified, mas tumaas siya. No? Parang anong nangyayari diyan, parang kung alam niyo yung sa COVID, 'di ba? Lalo-lalo na nung unang-una pa lang. Pagka nagka-COVID ka, wala pang mga vaccine, mas namamatay yung patient kapag akala mo pagaling na. Kasi na-amplify yung immune response eh. Yung immune response ngayon ang nagkakos ng death ng pasyente. Nagkakaroon ng ARDS, yung acute respiratory distress syndrome. Kaya yung pasyente namamatay, hindi na niya kaya. So, yan yung DAMPs. Amplifies the immune response. So, again, no, this is a pathway showing you yung pathophysiology ng shock with regards to the immune response. Kasi yung sa cellular level, yung pinakita natin kanina, dalawa siya. Yung septic and trauma. So sa trauma, yung traumatic shock na tinatawag, ang mangyayari, there will be release of these DAMPs or damage-associated molecular patterns. So ano-ano itong mga example ng DAMPs? HMGB1, so tandaan nyo yan, heparin sulfate and uric acid. Yan yung mga substance na molecules ng DAMPs. So anong ginagawa niya? It stimulates the macrophages to release chemokines and tissue necrotic factor that will stimulate the production of lymphocytes and release these substances, yung mga cytokines, the interferon, tissue necrotic factor. You have stimulation and production of the immune response. So yan. No. Side by side with the sepsis, yung mga septic shock, no, ganun din ang effect niya. Pero ang effect naman ng direct effect naman ang sepsis and bacterial products. Direct ang effect niya sa macrophages, sa complements. So, pareho silang cellular level pero ang traumatic kasi nga nanggaling sa loob ng cells or tissue yung mga substances na to, na-release siya. Okay. Pero itong bacterial products, iba naman siya, galing siya sa bacteria, external source. Okay? So, yun yung difference niya. And of course, yung trauma will release the neuropeptides and will stimulate the tissue-based macrophages in muscle to release histamine, leukotrienes, chemokines, tissue necrotic factor. So, iikot lang siya. So, that is how a traumatic shock amplifies the inflammatory response. Okay. So, because in the center of inflammatory response is your cytokines. So, other terms na cytokines is chemokines. Okay. So, ang difference lang pag sinabi chemokines, ina-attract niya yung may chemotaxis, ina-attract niya yung mga cells. So, pero same lang yan, no? Cytokines or chemokines. So, ano-ano yung mga example ng cytokines? No? First is the tissue necrotic factor alpha. So, ano yan? So, this is one of the first cytokines released in response to injurious stimuli. So, ang peak release niya is 90 minutes from the type of injury. So, anong nagre-release sa kanya? It is released by monocytes, macrophages, and T cells. And also, TNF is induced by bacterial and hemorrhage and ischemia. So, pag na-release yun, it will lead to shock and hypoperfusion. And the higher the tissue necrotic factor, alpha, correlates with mortality. So, you will have higher mortality pag mas mataas siya. So, anong effect ng tissue necrotic alpha? Peripheral vasoconstriction. Kaya nga sabi natin kanina sa microcirculation, iba ang effect ng hypovolemia or hypovolemic shock at iba ang effect ng sepsis and traumatic shock kasi sila ay vasodilatation. Okay. So, tissue necrotic alpha produce vasodilatation, release of other cytokines. They are also procoagulant. Okay. You will have muscle protein breakdown and cachexia. Okay. Just an information, no? In yung mga cancer patients, so hindi related dito yun ha. In cancer patient, mataas ang tissue necrotic factor alpha. Yan yung reason kung bakit pumapayat yung mga pasyente, yung tinatawag na cachexia. Kaya usually mga cancer patient, payat na sila aside from hindi makakain and consumption ng nutrients ng cancer, no? Isa yan sa mga reason. Okay? So, another substance is the interleukin 1. Yung interleukin 1, same lang siya ng action ng tissue necrotic factor alpha. Ano ang difference nila? The difference is the interleukin 1 has very short half-life, 6 minutes lang, and it acts as paracrine. So, magkaiba siya. So, pag paracrine, dun lang sa local site. Halimbawa, tinamaan yung forearm mo, may trauma dyan, o may infection, dun lang siya sa site na yon. Pero yung tissue necrotic factor, umiikot siya sa buong katawan. Okay? So basically halos pareho lang siya. Pero magkaiba yung kanilang action at saka yung half-life. So interleukin 1 produces a febrile response, okay, by stimulation of prostaglandin in the posterior hypothalamus. So yan na, lalagnatin ka na. Okay, pag may infection, halimbawa may appendicitis ka. So tataas sa interleukin 1 mo, lalagnatin ka na. Ano pa? It will cause anorexia. So, wala ka nang ganang kumain. May appendicitis ka, may namamaga, ayaw mo nang kumain ngayon. Mataas ang interleukin 1 mo. Okay. Ano pa? It augments the secretion of ACTH, glucocorticoid, and beta endorphins. Interleukin 1 together with the tissue necrotic alpha. Okay. Both of them will stimulate the release of other interleukins. So, dahil nandiyan na silang dalawa, sila yung unang-una, it will stimulate other interleukin secretion. So, katulad ng IL-2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, which are stimulatory. Okay. Also, the granulocyte macrophage colony stimulating factor or GM-CSF and interferon gamma. Ano naman yung interleukin 2? Interleukin-2 is produced by activated T cells. They promote shock-induced tissue response and development of shock. They contribute to the depression of immune response function. Okay. Interleukin-6, they correlates with mortality in shock state. Very important itong interleukin-6 in the contribution to the lungs, liver, and gut injury after hemorrhagic shock. So siya yung mataas dito, no? And of course, it plays a role in the development of ARDS or acute respiratory distress syndrome and alveolar damage. So when you go into clinics, no, pag doktor na kayo and you go to ICU, may mga pasyente na namabaga yung lungs, no, hindi nagre-respond. So yung tinatawag na acute respiratory distress syndrome or ARDS. Okay? So yung IL-6 mataas yan, no, sa mga pasyente nagkakaroon ng ARDS. Usually yan, nagkakaroon sila ng pulmonary edema, no, hindi na makapagkaroon ng exchange ng oxygen and carbon dioxide sa alveoli because of the ARDS. So yung IL-6 plays an important role in this type of damage. So both IL-6 and IL-1, they are mediators of hepatic acute phase response to injury. So apektado din yung liver. Okay. Enhance the expression of activity of complements, C-reactive protein, fibrinogen, haptoglobulin, amyloid A, alpha-1 antitrypsin. Okay. And promote neutrophil activation. IL-10 naman, in comparison, these are anti-inflammatory cytokines. And they are associated with depressed immune function and susceptibility to infection. So pag mataas siya, mas prone kasi sa infection. They are released by T cells, monocytes, macrophages. So dahil ang effect niya is anti-inflammatory, it inhibits pro-inflammatory cytokine secretion, oxygen radical production ng phagocytes, as well as adhesion molecules and lymphocyte activation. Okay. Yung sinabi ko kanina, yung chemokines, ang difference lang niya, cytokines din siya. But they have ability to induce chemotaxis. So alam naman natin in your physiology, pag sinabing chemotaxis, no, ina-attract niya yung inflammatory cells dun sa site. So that is chemotaxis. Okay. This is a table showing you the inflammatory mediators of shock. Merong pro-inflammatory and anti. No, yung pro-inflammatory, you have yung interleukins 1, alpha, beta, you have the TNF alpha. Okay, you have interleukin 2, 6, 8, interferon, and platelet activating factor. Yung anti, nandiyan yung 10, no? And of course, prostaglandin E. Kaya nga yung effect ng paracetamol related dyan eh. Okay? Other substances, you have your complements. So complements, as pangalan pa lang niya, they only serve as marker of severity of injury. So ibig sabihin dagdag lang sila, complement lang. So ano-ano yung mga yan? You have your activated C3A, C4A, and C5A. They are potent mediators of increased vascular permeability, smooth muscle cells contraction, histamine, arachidonic acid byproduct release, adherence of neutrophil to vascular endothelium. Now, take note, itong mga complements na to, ang pinaka-common dyan na kinukuha is yan, C3A. No? Nile-request sa lab yan. And dahil nga they are potent mediators of increased vascular permeability, no? Kung natatandaan nyo yung dengue, kasi dengue season ngayon dahil tag-ulan. No, usually yung dengue is an infection, viral infection yan. And then mataas yung kanyang activated C3A. So kaya nangyayari yung vascular volume lumalabas. No, lumalabas kaya yung iba nagmamanas kasi lumalabas yung fluid sa blood vessel because of the vascular permeability. Okay? So this complex acts synergistically with endotoxin to induce release of tissue necrotic factor alpha interleukin. So, kapag may bacterial infection, aside from yung bacteria, yung complement tumadagdag pa siya para tumataas yung release na itong pro-inflammatory cells ng katawan, yung tissue necrotic alpha and interleukin 1. Okay. Kaya halimbawa may diabetes, 'di ba? May sugat, may infection. So may bacteria doon. Okay. So magkakaroon ka na ngayon ng lagnat, i-release mo na yung tissue necrotic factor and interleukin 1. Okay. So aside from those chemicals, part ng inflammatory response are the cells. So konti alam naman natin mga cells na involved diyan eh. So of course, the neutrophils or the PMNs, polymorphonuclear cells, they are the first cells recruited. Okay. So anong function nila? It remove infectious agent and foreign substances and non-viable tissue. Paano nila ginagawa 'yon? They produce reactive oxygen species, no? Meron silang enhance yung kanilang peroxidase, okay, yung mga peroxisomes, no? So meron silang enzymes na lipid peroxidation product, proteolytic enzyme and vasoactivators. Very important sa inflammatory response is the cell signaling. Okay. So kailangan din ng ATP diyan para diyan. So the host of cellular changes occurs following shock. So yung cell signaling. So there are two types, may intra and extracellular. Intracellularly sa loob ng cells, no. Ang usual na pathway is the calcium. So the calcium is needed for hemostasis and regulation, and there will be a cascade consisting of the kinases. So itong enzyme na to sa loob ng cells functions with regards to the intracellular signaling. Okay. Question so far?
None so far po, Doc.
Sige. So we only have 2 hours. Okay pa ba kayo? So probably pwede kayo mag-stretch muna. We have a kahit 2-minute break lang. Okay, para yung gusto mag-CR, mag-CR, gusto minom. So it's 7:53. We'll be back at 7:55 para ituloy natin. So we are now on the types of shock. Okay? Sige. Break for 2 minutes.
Thank you po, Doc.
Okay? So okay na kayo? Sige. So we have kasi 120 slides. So parang nasa 55 pa lang tayo. Okay? So let's continue. Okay, so current types of shocks. As described earlier, we have 6 types. Okay. So let's discuss them one by one. So first is hypovolemic shock. So by the term itself, hypovolemic, konti ang volume. Okay. So ibig sabihin yan, yung fluid na nasa loob ng blood vessel, yun ang konti. So this is the most common type of shock, and this is due to loss of circulating blood volume, nawala in dugo or nawala in fluid. So pwedeng whole blood loss. Pagka dugo mismo nawala, that is hemorrhagic shock. So pagka nawala yung plasma or interstitial fluid, katulad sa bowel obstruction, okay, yung nagbara yung bituka kasi yung fluid pupunta sa loob ng intestine, or na-dehydrate, nagtatae, nagsusuka, those are example of hypovolemic shock. Siyempre, yung mga bata, very common yan, yung mga, ang tawag dyan, pag nagtatae, nagsusuka, nagkaroon ng cholera, ganyan, no? So, acute gastroenteritis. So, pwede sila mag-hypovolemic shock. So, pwede sila mamatay doon. Okay. So, just to reiterate, may tinatawag na preferential blood flow dahil ang kailangan preserve ay heart and brain. So, paano nangyayari yon? So, this results from the following. Peripheral vasoconstriction. Okay. So, syempre yung blood mas pupunta sa heart and lungs. Ano pa? Sympathetic effect on the cerebral and coronary vessels. So, there are no sympathetic effects. So, ibig sabihin, yung coronary artery mo at saka yung circle of Willis mo, walang sympathetic doon. So, ibig sabihin, hindi yon nagbabasoconstrict. Okay, kaya doon, ano pa? Loco autoregulations. Okay. So, there are classification of hemorrhage. So, merong 4 na class yan sa hemorrhagic or hypovolemic shock. Usually sa hemorrhagic shock ito. So, you have class 1, class 2, class 3, and class 4. So, para malaman mo kung anong class yan, may mga parameters. Ano-ano yung mga parameters? Yung blood loss, kung kaano karami. Okay? Yung percent ng blood loss, ilang percentage. Yung heart rate, may effect ba sa heart? Yung blood pressure, may effect dyan. And central nervous system symptoms. So, example natin, class 1. So, sa class 1, ang blood loss mo less than 750 ml. Sa adult to ha. Okay. So, halimbawa, nag-donate ka ng blood. So, pag nag-donate ka ng blood, ilan lang ba ang ml na tatanggalin sa'yo? So, you will donate usually yan 500 ml. Wala pang 750. Okay. So, marami yun. Isipin mo, 500 ml, yung isang baso kasi 250 ml yun eh. Diba? So, 2 baso yun. Okay. So, class 1 ka lang. Yung blood loss mo, less than 15% lang. Heart rate mo, hindi ka magkakaroon ng tachycardia. No? Kasi nag-compensate ka eh. Compensated pa yan eh. Blood pressure mo, normal, hindi ka magkakaroon ng hypotension. Di ba? Pag nag-donate ka, hindi naman bagsak ang blood pressure mo. CNS symptoms, normal din ang pag-iisip mo, walang effect. Pero kapag ang blood loss mo, nag-donate ka ng 2 blood, 750 to 1,500 ml, no? Class 2 yon, mapupunta ka na doon. Donate mong blood is 15 to 30%. Kaya nga bawal mag-donate ng blood ng 2 bag eh, maximum lang ng isa. Ano mangyayari sa iyo? Magkakaroon ka na ng tachycardia. Heart rate mo is more than 100 na. Magkakaroon ka na ng orthostatic hypotension. Ibig sabihin, pag tumayo ka, mahihilo ka, babagsak ang blood pressure mo kasi konti na yung dugo mo. Usually anxious yung patient. Okay? Pag may 1 litro na nawala. Kapag ang blood loss mo naman, 1.5 liters to 2 liters na, ang blood loss mo is 30 to 40%. Usually yan, heart rate mo more than 120 and hypotensive na yung pasyente. Kaya kapag may pasyente na halimbawa nasaksak siya o nabarel at dumating sa emergency room, pag kinuha mo yung blood pressure niya at hypotensive siya, less than 80/60 or 80/50 siya, no? Less than 90/60. Hypotensive 'yon. Okay. So, ibig sabihin, minimum yung class 3 na kagad yon. Usually yan, ang hirap na siyang kausapin. Confused na yan. Pag kinakausap mo, parang medyo tuliro. Okay? Pero kapag ang blood loss mo more than 2 liters na, ibig sabihin sobrang dami na yon. More than 40% na yung ano yan. Kung buhay pa siya, heart rate niya more than 140. Tapos, sobrang bagsak na. Kung minsan, palpatory na lang. No? Hindi mo na marinig sa BP cuff. No? Palpatory na yung BP niya. Okay, usually yung pasyente wala na, no? Hindi mo na makakausap yan, obtunded na. So ito yung pinaka-basis kung paano kina-classify ang hemorrhagic shock. Okay? So tandaan niyo to ha, lalabas sa exam to. Maliwanag? Sige. So basta pagka hypotensive, class 3 kagad. Orthostatic lang, class 2. Pero pagka nagtachycardia na siya, minimum class 2 kasi normal pa yung class 1. Okay? Sige. Ngayon, the problem is, if there will be bleeding, okay, mas higher risk ang mga elderly, mga mas matatanda. Mas may risk sila magkaroon ng hemorrhagic shock or hypovolemic shock. Bakit? So, ito yung mga reasons. One, usually yan, meron na yung medication kasi meron na yung high blood dahil matanda na. Bibigyan niya ng aspirin or clopidogrel dahil may heart disease. This will promote bleeding, lalo sila magdudugo. Ano pa? Pag matatanda, they have atherosclerotic vascular disease, matitigas na yung blood vessel. And because of that, you will have diminished cardiac compliance. No? Yung heart mo hindi na gaano adjust. And they have inability to elevate the heart rate or cardiac motility in response to hemorrhage. And of course, dahil matanda na sila, they have overall decline in physiologic reserve. Okay? So, may mga site, no? Site of blood loss sufficient to cause shock. So, ano yung mga area na may sugat na pwedeng ikamatay ng pasyente? Okay. So, one, external bleeding. Basta pag may external bleeding, ang treatment ay lagyan nyo lang ng pressure kung nakikita nyo dumudugo. Okay. Bawa, naglaslas. O, lagay mo pressure yon, yung laslas niya. Okay. Intrathoracic. Pwede magdugo sa loob ng chest. Each pleural cavity can hold 2 to 3 liters. So isipin mo, 2 liters, di class 3 na kagad yun ang shock niya. Di ba? So paano mo, ano ang gagawin kung mayroong bleeding? Halimbawa, nasaksak yung chest, may hemothorax. Ano ang treatment kapag unstable? Ibig sabihin, hypotensive, maglagay ka ng chest tube para mag-expand yung lungs, makahinga siya. And of course, magkakaroon ng tamponade effect yun. So pwedeng dahil nag-expand yung lungs, pwede niya ipitin yung dumudugo. Chest x-ray kapag ka-stable, pwede mo munang, halimbawa, normal ang BP, pwede mo pa-x-ray muna para ma-document mo kung talaga meron hemothorax. Okay. Sa tiyan, pagka hypotensive, may saksak sa tiyan, you have to do exploration. No? Operahan mo siya. You have to do exploratory laparotomy. Pagka saksak naman sa likod, retroperitoneal, depende kung saan ang zone. Kasi kung tinamaan yung kidney, explore mo yun. Okay. Pero pag sa gitna, baka hindi naman. Baka buto lang. Okay. Long bone fracture. Kung may fracture ka, pwede ka rin mag-hypotension. No? Depende kung anong buto. No? Kung yung buto mas malaki, mas maiipon yung dugo. Okay. So ito yung sinasabi natin, pag dumudugo, no, at external, lumalabas. Halimbawa, yung carotid, nilaslas yung leeg, sumisirit yung dugo. Lagyan mo siya ng pressure para hindi maubos yung dugo. So yan yon. Pagka yung chest naman, nagkaroon ng hemothorax, lagyan mo ng chest tube. Mas maipit niya yung dumudugo. Okay, lalabas yung blood, tapos mag-expand yung lungs. Okay. Regarding naman sa sa fracture, sabi ko kanina depende sa bone kasi pagka ang rib mo na fracture, pwedeng mawalan ka ng dugo, konti lang 125. Radius at ulna sa forearm, pwede 250 to 500. Humerus, yan, 500 to 750 na bali yung upper arm mo. Tibia fibula dahil long bone yan. So pwede as much as 1 liter, pero ang femur pwedeng 2 liters. So, pwede ka na mag-hypotension pag na-fracture ang femur mo nang hindi mo nalalaman. Okay. Pag pelvis, minimum na 1 liter hanggang 2 liters yan. Okay. So ito yung picture na may fracture ng femur. No? So kita mo sobrang laki ng kanyang thigh. Ibig sabihin puro dugo yan sa loob. Okay? So pwedeng hypotensive yung pasyente pero hindi mo namamalayan na nagdudugo. Okay. So anong treatment yan? Bone fixation, no? Pinifixate yung bone, pinapantay, then kung may dumudugo, kinokontrol. Pelvic fracture. Okay. These are major retroperitoneal hemorrhage. Okay. So yung dugo niya wala sa loob ng abdominal cavity, pwede nasa tissue siya. Okay. Intraperitoneal hemorrhage, yung nasa loob ng tiyan. This is the most common source inducing shock. Yung mga nasaksak kasi sa isang tao, kung gusto mo siya sasaksakin, anong una mong tatamaan? Laki ng abdomen eh. So, siya yung pinakamalaking area. Yun ang unang tatamaan ng saksak. Kaya siya yung most common source ng shock. Kasi yun ang unang tinatamaan. Okay. For non-trauma, yung mga hindi naman nasaksak, ano ang pwedeng cause ng hypovolemic shock? Yung mga hindi nasaksak at hindi nabaril. So, ang common ay GI tract. So, GI tract must always be considered. No? Paano mo makukonsider yon? Halimbawa, history ng PE, nagtatae, nagsusuka. No? Lalo na yung mga bata. So, hypovolemic shock yon kasi naubos na yung kanyang fluid. Ano pa? Yung mga nagtatae ng dugo. Halimbawa, merong bleeding tumor, tae siya ng tae ng dugo. O, di ubos ang dugo niya. Ano pa? Hematemesis, suka ng dugo. Halimbawa, meron siyang liver cirrhosis, tapos meron siyang esophageal varices dahil sa liver cirrhosis. So yung mga ugat niya sa esophagus, dumudugo, suka ng dugo, maubos yung dugo niya. So, magkukos ka na ng hemorrhagic shock. Okay? So, anong dapat gawin kapag may hypovolemic shock? Okay, so babalik uli dun sa BLS, so basic life support. Airway, yung ABCDE. A is airway, check kung merong obstruction, pustiso. Breathing, no. Kaya nga turo diyan, hey, are you okay? Yun ang unang tatanong. Kung nag-respond siya, nagsalita siya, ibig sabihin okay yung airway niya. Okay? Breathing, kung nakakahinga siya, no. Circulation, tingnan mo kung may BP pa. O, tingnan mo yung pulse, kung may pulse. Disability, neurologic deficit. Halimbawa, conscious ba siya o hindi? O kung may tama ba yung ulo niya. No? Exposure na yan. Exposure, kung saan ang injury niya. Halimbawa, may saksak siya sa harap. Meron ba siya sa likod? Meron ba siyang fracture? So, titingnan mo na lahat ng pwedeng cause. So, yan ang exposure. Okay. Volume resuscitation. This is initiated while searching for the cause. Ibig sabihin, habang hinahanap mo, ina-expose mo kung ano yung mga cause ng bleeding niya, kailangan maglagay ka na ng line, IV line. Minimum ng 2 line. Minimum, 2. And you must place large bore needle katulad ng gauge 18. Bakit? Kailangan mo mag-pass drip ng at least 2 liters para makahabol. Okay. Shock in trauma or post-op patient, pag kayo mga nasaksak na baril o kay bagong opera, kapag ka nag-hypotension yan, anong unang mo nang iisipin? Unang iisipin ay hemorrhage kasi may sugat. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, kung ma-clerk at intern na kayo, may pasyente sa recovery room, tapos bigla nag-hypotension, unang-unang isipin nyo, baka may nagdudugo doon sa inopera. Okay? Yun ang ibig sabihin yan. So, how do you treat? Definitive treatment. You must first control the ongoing hemorrhage. Kasi, parang basket yan eh. Magsaling ka man ng tubig sa basket na may butas, hindi mo mapupuno yon, tatapon lang. Kaya kailangan i-control ang butas, takpan yung butas. So that is damage control. No? Control the ongoing hemorrhage. So failed initial resuscitation. So halimbawa, di ba pagpunta ng emergency room ng pasyente, naglagay ka ng IV line, nag-volume resuscitate ka. Hindi tumaas ang blood pressure, nagbigay ka ng 2 liters. Alam naman natin na shock ng class 3, ilan na nawala? 'Di ba? 1.5 to 2 liters. So pag nag-infuse ka 1.5 to 2 liters, dapat tataas na yung blood pressure mo, 'di ba? Hindi tumaas. No, failed initial resuscitation. So, ibig sabihin, you always assume active hemorrhage from large vessel. Okay. So, ano ibig sabihin nun? Pagka ganun, hindi nag-respond, it requires prompt operative intervention. Kailangan operahin ka agad yung pasyente kundi mamamatay siya. Okay. So, active bleeding patient cannot be resuscitated until control of ongoing hemorrhage is achieved. So, yan yung sinasabi ko kanina. Hindi mo pwede mapuno ang baso pag may butas siya. So, kailangan takpan yung butas. Okay. So, dyan ay damage control resuscitation. So, it will begin at the emergency room. Tapos dadalhin kagad yung pasyente sa operating room, then sa ICU kung kailangan. Sige. So, paano ginagawa? Sa emergency room, you limit the blood pressure to 80 to 90. Huwag mo papataasin. Bakit? Kasi pag tumaas, kasi alam normal blood pressure ng pasyente, 120 over 80. Bagsak na siya, hypotensive na siya, 80 o 70 over 50 siya. Pag pinataas mo siya na more than that, no, magkakaroon uli siya ng bleeding. Kasi baka may clot na doon tumigil na yung bleeding dahil may clot. Pag pinataas mo siya, matatanggal yung clot. Nagdudugo uli. Okay. Ano pa kailangan? Warm the patient and prevent coagulopathy. Okay. So, ano ang pinaka-definitive? Once na nakapagbigay ka na ng crystalloid, you give blood products kasi yun na nawala. Pero initially, crystalloids muna. Ano yung mga crystalloids? Yung mga plain NSS and lactated drainer. Okay. Ang kaibahan sa penetrating injury, pag sinabing penetrating, yan yung gunshot at saka stab wound. Pag sinabing blunt injury, yan yung mga nabangga. Bawa, nabangga o nahulog. So, in blunt injury, usually ang kinamamatay nila yung ulo, close head injury, mga nabagok. Okay, halimbawa, yung mga nagbumotor, yung mga kamote drivers, motor-motor kasi, sisingit-singit. Di nabangga. Nalabangga siya, ano mangyayari? Hindi pa nag-helmet. Magkakaroon yan ng close head injury. So, ang difference, pag blunt injury, ang systemic blood pressure kailangan ay 110. Sa penetrating, kailangan pinakamataas na yung 80 hanggang 90. Okay. So, huwag mo na papataasin. Pero pagka blunt injury, ang systemic blood pressure, kailangan appropriate is 110. Okay? So, how do you resuscitate? By damage control. Unang-una, minimize rebleeding, avoid popping the clot. So, maintain yung BP sa 80 to 90. So, control the bleeding. So, yan yung sinasabi natin. Patch the hole. Okay. Kung halimbawa, ang sabi dito, delay definitive care and early surgical control of bleeding. So, ano ibig sabihin nun? Kung sinaksak at may nagdudugo, no? Halimbawa, nagdudugo yung liver. Okay. So, kontrolin mo muna yung bleeding. Kung wala ka pang blood, saka muna balikan. Control mo muna yung bleeding. Hintayin mo munang dumating yung blood, mag-transfuse ka muna. Pagka okay na, bumalik ka uli sa OR, saka mo siya operahan kasi nakabawi. Okay. So, yan, example niyan. Halimbawa, ito liver. Napunit. Nagdudugo. So, anong gagawin mo? Pagka tumigil yung blood, isarado mo muna temporarily, then transfuse. Kasi pagka dinisect mo pa siya ng dinisect, mas marami pang blood ang mawawala. No? Kasi ginagalaw mo eh. Okay, basta pag na-control mo siya, tigil muna, tapos pabawiin mo muna sa blood loss. So pagka naka-recover na, nakapag-transfuse ka na, halimbawa, ang hemoglobin ng pasyente 7, bagsak yon. Okay, so ilan ang blood na kailangan mo i-transfuse para tumaas? So ang isang isang level, no, para tumaas ng isang hemoglobin, isang bag. So kailangan mag-transfuse ka ng 3 para maging 10. Nakapag-transfuse ka na ng 3 bag, naka-10 ang hemoglobin mo, pwede ka nang bumalik sa OR. Tapos hanapin mo na yung nag-bleed, then you repair. Okay? So ganun ang ibig sabihin ng damage control. Question? May question ba regarding doon? So, ganun ang treatment, ha? So, yan yung sinasabi ng ER sa OR, then habang hinihintay mo yung blood, makarecover, ilagay mo muna siya sa ICU. So, So, kahit 24 hours. So, within 24 hours, pagka nakabawi na ng blood loss, balik mo na siya sa operating room within 24 hours. Okay? Question? Wala. So, treatment, no? Part of treatment. Paano mo malalaman kung nasa irreversible shock na siya? Kasi when I was a resident, dyan sa FEU, parang trauma center ang FEU eh. And in a matter of 7 months, naka-opera ako ng mga 134 gunshot and stab wound sa FEU. So kami yung unang-unang resident dyan sa Fairview. So dati puro talahib pa yan. Wala pa yung mga building dyan gaano. Puro talahib pa siya. Okay, kaya usually pagkagabi maraming sasaksak na babaril. Wala pang police station dyan sa harap. Okay. So, paano mo malalaman ngayon kung irreversible na, hindi mo na mamamatay na yung pasyente? Okay. So, yan. Characteristics are ongoing fluid requirement. So, lagay ka na lagay ng fluid. Okay na yung ano mo, pero hindi tumataas yung blood pressure. Okay. Ano pa? Persistent hypotension. Kahit nakabawi ka na sa fluid, hypotensive pa rin siya. Okay. Nagbibigay ka na ngayon ng vasopressors. Ano pa? Exhibit a futile cycle of uncontrollable hypoperfusion, acidosis, and coagulopathy. Oh. So, baka nasa irreversible shock na siya. Okay. So, yung fluid treatment natin, sabi ko kanina, crystalloids muna kasi yun ang available sa emergency. So, that is the mainstay fluid of choice. For severe hemorrhage, restoration of IV volume should be achieved with blood products. So, yun sabi ko kanina. Pagka may available na yung blood, you transfuse blood para makahabol, no? Because blood is needed for oxygen delivery. Anong crystalloid ang ibibigay? Usually, plain NSS. So, hypertonic saline, no? Kasi, bakit sila? It has an immunomodulatory effect. It decreases reperfusion-mediated injury due to autoradicals. You will have less impairment of immune function and less brain swelling in multi-organ patient. Okay. Kasi ano yan eh. Halimbawa may brain injury, nauntog din siya kasi nabangga, ang dami yung tama. O pinukpok din siya bukod sa sinaksak siya, pinukpok pa siya sa ulo. Magkakaroon ng brain swelling yon. So, para hindi mamaga yung utak, no, hyperosmotic muna. So, yan, hypertonic saline. And it may decrease acute respiratory distress syndrome and multi-organ failure. So, ang target hemoglobin, 7 to 9. Basta mas maganda, normally, hanggang 10 sana. No? How do you transfuse? Ang guide, dati kasi puro whole blood. Pag nagpapatransfuse ng trauma. Ngayon, hindi na. Kasi pag whole blood, nandoon din yung byproducts of metabolism. Nandoon din yung mga dumi ng donor. May mga creatinine yan, may mga kung ano yung sakit ng pasyente na hindi na itapon ng kidney, nandoon. Okay? So, mga ADP. So, ano paano magta-transfuse? I-transfuse with PAC-RBC, presprosen, at saka platelet. Paano binibigay? In equal amounts. Kung nagbigay ka ng 1 unit ng PAC-RBC, 1 unit din ng presprosen at 1 unit din ng platelet. So, ganoon ang pag-transfuse. Okay? So, increased platelet appears to improve outcome. A normal platelet is 150 to 450. Huwag mo siyang papababain ng 50 kasi pag less than 50, spontaneous na mag-bleed yung pasyente. Kaya kailangan above 50. Yung mga dengue patient, pagka bumagsak ng, halimbawa, may appendicitis yan, less than 50 ang ano yan, ang platelet yan. Pag inoperahan mo yan, sugat pa lang, hindi mo na mapatigil yung pagdudugo. Kaya kailangan pataasin ang platelet above 50. Ano pang kailangan? Maintain normothermia. Bakit? Kasi ang hypothermia will lead to acidosis, hypotension, and coagulopathy. And this is an independent risk factor of bleeding. So, paano mo makokontrol ang hypothermia? No? Sa mga ibang hospital, meron yung ganyan, yung thermal blanket, no? May sinasaksak na warm air papasok doon sa blanket. Sa atin, blanket lang na makapal. Okay. Ano pa? Paano to prevent hypothermia? Yung warmer. Halimbawa, magta-transfuse ka. Painit yung IV line, wag naman malamig o kaya yung pang-wash. Halimbawa kasi may blood, syempre magwa-wash ka ng abdominal cavity. Wag malamig, ipa-warm niyo yung water na pang-wash nyo. Wag naman sobrang init na maluluto ha. Yun lang warm. Okay, to prevent hypothermia. Okay, question? Wala. We'll go now to traumatic shock. So, the second type of shock is traumatic shock. So, this is due to soft tissue and bone injury plus blood loss. So, example yan, mga crashing, mga nadudurog, napipit-pit. No? So, yan, katulad yan. Ito dati nangyayari ito sa North Ave. No? Naipit ng mixer yung kotse. So, ano mangyayari doon sa tao doon? Dipipi siya. Okay. So, maaaring walang dumudugo pero dahil napipi, ayun na, meron na siyang inflammatory response. So, ano pa? Yung mga yan, nadurog, no? Naipit. Nabagsak ka ng, halimbawa, lumindol, bumagsak yung bahay, naipit, o yan, durog. So, in traumatic shock, you will have inflammatory cell activation and circulating factors. Ito na yon. Yung sinasabi natin kanina, yung dumps. Okay, you will have multiple organ failure, acute respiratory distress syndrome, no, dahil sa mga interleukins yan, hypoperfusion, deficit, and pro-inflammatory activation. So, ito na yung dumps. So, example ng mga dumps, yung mga ribonucleic acid, uric acid, heparan sulfate, no, they are released at the cellular level. So, ang traumatic shock, ang problema sa kanya, it is a combination. Combination siya ng hypovolemic, neurogenic, cardiogenic, and obstructive. Lahat-lahat siya, kasama sila. So, how do you treat? Correction to diminish the cascade, ang pro-inflammatory. So, paano? Control hemorrhage, adequate volume resuscitation. Kung mga may nabulok dahil nadurog, remove debris, the non-viable tissue. Ano pa? Kung may fracture, you stabilize, mag-reduction kayo or fixation. And treatment of soft tissue injury. May palabas na ganyan kung nanonood kayo ng Dr. X sa Netflix. May episode doon na yung pasyente nabagsakan ng boulder, tinamaan yung forearm. So nandoon si Dr. X sa area. So para hindi magkaroon ng traumatic shock, magkaroon ng release ng pro-inflammatory substances, ang ginawa niya, pinutol niya yung forearm on site. Tapos natanggal yung boulder. No? Kinuha niya yung forearm, no? Pumunta na sila sa hospital, ikinabit na niya. So yun, no? Okay. Question sa traumatic shock?
None
Wala?
so po.
Sige. So we go now to the third type of shock, which is vasogenic shock. So yung vasogenic shock, the same siya sa vasodilatory shock. So pareho lang yung vasogenic at saka vasodilatory. Okay? So pareho ng term yan. So ano yan? When you say vasogenic, there is decreased resistance within the capacitance vessels. Ibig sabihin, nagda-dilate. Ngayon, dahil nag-dilate siya, ano mangyayari ngayon? Mapaperceive ng katawan na konti lang yung fluid. Kasi bagsak dahil nag-dilate siya eh. Parang ang laki parang yung baso, punong-puno ng tubig. Inilipit mo siya sa pitchel. Eh di parang wala na siyang volume, di ba? So, ganun yun. Okay? So, ang example ng vasogenic shock is septic shock or sepsis. Okay? So, paano nagkakaroon ng sepsis? So, yung mga bacterial byproducts, magre-release sila ng nitric oxide. So, pag nag-release ng nitric oxide, magbabasodilate. So, yan. So, these are the result of dysfunction of the endothelium and vasculature. Secondary to circulating inflammatory mediators and cells. So, yung vasoconstriction nagfe-fail. So, ano mangyayari? We'll have hypotension and there will be resistance to vasopressor. Kahit na magbigay ka ng mga vasoconstrictor, resistance siya. So, yun ang problema ni sepsis. Septic shock. So, septic shock is the most frequent encountered type of vasodilatory shock. Marami kasing vasodilatory shock or vasogenic shock. Pero ang pinaka-common ay septic shock. Okay. So, having said that, no, vasodilatory shock is the final common pathway for profound and prolonged shock. So, ano ibig sabihin nun? Halimbawa, nag hypovolemic shock ka. So, yung unang-una, hypovolemic shock. Nauubos na yung dugo mo. Nasa irreversible phase ka. Once na nasa irreversible phase ka, pupunta ka na sa vasodilatory shock. No? So, other types of vasodilatory shock, aside from sepsis, nandiyan dyan ang lactic acidosis, carbon monoxide poisoning, yan, irreversible hemorrhagic shock. So, yan, kasama na siya dyan. Terminal cardiogenic shock, no, yung hindi na nagre-response yung heart. Post-cardiotomy shock. Okay? So, yan. So, ano ang signs and symptoms ng septic shock? Enhanced cardiac output, peripheral vasodilatation. So, syempre, pag nag-dilate, no, mainit, may fever. Okay? Unlike yung hypovolemic shock, malamig yung katawan nun, cold and clammy. Yung naubusan ng dugo. Pag hinawakan mo siya, malamig. Clammy siya. Pero pagka septic shock, mainit yan. No? Aside from the inflammatory, nagbabasodilate. Okay? Ano pa? Leukocytosis. Pag nagpa-CBC ka, increase WBC count. So, hyperglycemia, tachycardia. So, what is the diagnostic criteria? Yung manifestations ng signs and symptoms plus identify the offending organism. So, halimbawa, yung pasyente, naglalagnat, hypotensive. Anong gagawin mo? You isolate the organism. So, paano yon? At least 2 from 3 sites. Halimbawa, sa right lower, right upper, left upper. So, halimbawa ganun, 4 na sites sa 4 na extremity. Pag may na-isolate kang dalawa, yung organism, septic shock yon. Okay. Sepsis, pag sinabing sepsis lang, evidence of infection plus signs and symptoms of inflammation. Halimbawa, meron kang diabetic gangrene, nabubulok yung paa dahil sa diabetes. Okay. So, septic yon kasi meron kang evidence na infection, tapos meron kang fever, leukocytosis, tachycardia. Kapag severe yung sepsis, may hypoperfusion yon. And kapag may hypotension, basta pagka may hypotensive episode, shock na yon. Pero kung wala pang hypotension, pero nilalagnat, may source na infection, sepsis lang siya. Okay? So how do you treat septic shock? The same. Maximize the oxygen delivery. So adequate airway and ventilation. Fluid resuscitation and restoration of volume. So ano ibibigay? Balanced salt solution. Okay. Ano yung balanced salt solution? Usually ano yan? Lactated ringer or 10 NSS. Anong rate ang pagbibigay? 30 ml per kilogram within first 4 to 6 hours. Ano ang pinagbabawal ibigay? Dahil baka may bakterya, avoid starch-based colloid solution kasi paborito nila yan. Paano binibigay antibiotic? Kahit wala ka pang na-isolate na bacteria, you already give empiric antibiotic, meaning to say, magbigay ka na ng pinakamalakas na antibiotic na pwedeng i-cover lahat ng bakterya. Pwedeng gram-negative, gram-positive, anaerobic. Bigay mo na lahat. Then, isolate the bacteria. Pagka nagpa-culture ka, nalaman mo na yung bacteria, saka ka magbigay ng specific antibiotic. Pero, at the moment na meron ka sepsis, ibigay mo na lahat ng antibiotic na malakas. That is empiric. Na kayang i-control lahat ng types. Okay. And of course, source control. Ano yung source control? Halimbawa, may diabetic foot ka, no? Mga tatay at nanay, tito, merong paa nabubulok na, maitim na, mabaho. Yun ang source na infection kasi gangrene na, bulok na eh. Kahit anong bigay mo na antibiotic dyan, kung hindi natanggal yon, mamamatay ang pasyente. Meron akong kaklaseng ganyan eh. Diabetic gangrene na siya, in-advise na namin na amputate, putulin na para source control. Para wala na yung source na infection. Ayaw niya paputol. O ano nangyari? Namatay siya. Kasi walang source control. Umakyat na yung infection. Okay? So yan. Importante ang source control. Kung merong pigsa, putukin ang pigsa para lumabas yung nana para gumaling. Kung nabubulok ang paa, putulin ang paa. Bulok na eh. So, para wala ng source infection. That is source control. Okay. Example pa uli ng source control para lang alam nyo. Halimbawa, meron kang prosthesis or foreign body. Halimbawa, example ng foreign body. Mesh. May luslos. Meron kang nilagay na kulambo, foreign body to treat the mesh. Nandoon yung may infection doon. So, hindi mawawala yung infection pag hindi mo tinanggal yung mesh. So, kailangan tanggalin mo siya. Okay? So, how do you treat pag may sepsis? You give catecholamines. So, anong unang-unang catecholamines na bibigay mo? First line is norepinephrine, followed by epinephrine. Ano pa? Vasopressin is often added to norepinephrine. This is being given for arterial resistance to catecholamines. Okay. Ano pa? If there is cardiac dysfunction, you give Dobu. Okay? Kasi pag dopamine ang binigay mo, lalo mahihirapan si heart kasi lalo siya magpapump. Dobutamine, no, mas less ang kanyang peripheral resistance. So, mas less ang effort ni heart mag-pump. Okay. Question? So, ganun lang ang treatment ng sepsis. You give antibiotic and control the source. Okay? Next, cardiogenic shock. So, pag sinabing cardiogenic shock, the source of the circulatory failure is the heart itself. So, may problema yung puso. So, anong example niyan? Mga arrhythmia. Kasi hindi na maganda yung coordination ng heart. So, hindi na siya makapag-pump na maayos. Ano pa? Myocardial infarction, no? Yung mga muscles ng heart mo, sira na. Okay? So, yan yung tinatawag na heart attack. Okay? Wait, nasa na ba ako? Okay. So, circulatory pump failure, if the heart fails, you will have tissue hypoxia. So, anong hemodynamic criteria ng circulatory pump failure? Sustained hypotension for at least 30 minutes. Ano pa? Reduced cardiac index, less 2.2 liters per minute. Elevated pulmonary artery wedge pressure, more than 50 millimeters mercury. So, pagka inatake sa puso, you have a mortality rate of 50 to 80% pag hindi mo siya naagapan. Patay ang pasyente. No? And the most common cause ng cardiogenic shock ay acute myocardial infarction. Okay. So usually, the signs and symptoms of cardiogenic shock happens within 24 hours after the onset of infarction. No, average nun is 7 hours. So paano mo malalaman? You do cardiac exam. So pag in-examine mo yung heart, syempre sabihin ng pasyente masakit, mayroon masakit yung kanyang chest. Kung minsan nagre-radiate sa left upper arm. Okay? Tapos pag in-examine mo siya, pinakinggan mo yung heart, may dysrhythmia, may precordial heaves, distal heart sound. So how do you confirm kung ano yung meron ka agad na malalaman nyo? You do electrocardiogram. Kung may BLS kayo, basic life support, nandoon kayo sa site, pag nilagay nyo yung kung minsan, cardiac tracing, makikita ninyo. No? Pag nasa hospital siya, ilagay ka agad, do ECG, electrocardiogram. So how do you treat habang ginagawa yon? You intubate, you do, kung meron kayong pang intubate, no? You place it in a mechanical ventilator, no? Tinuturo rin yan sa ACLS, Advanced Life Support, Advanced Cardiac, Advanced ACLS, Advanced Cardio Life Support. Okay. So yung intubation will help breathing and facilitate sedation. Judicious fluid administration, kaya maglagay ng line, correct the electrolyte. Okay. So treatment, may tinatawag na MONA. Okay. So ano yung MONA for MI? MONA is M is morphine para sa pain kasi masakit yun eh. O is oxygen, N is nitrate. So para sa yung nitrate para mag-vasodilate yung cardiac vessels. And A is aspirin. No? Aspirin para hindi mag-clot yung dugo. Kasi pag nag-clot yun, dun sa may stricture, edi lalo nang mapapahamag pasyente, mas mabilis siya mamamatay. So yun yung MONA or STEMI. Ano yung STEMI? ST elevation myocardial infarction. Anong year na pala kayo? Second year pa lang? Baka hindi pa tinuro sa inyo yon, no? So basta sa ECG may ST elevation, MI yon. So kaya yung sinasabi nila STEMI. ST elevation, MI. STEMI. Tinuturo yan sa advanced cardiac life support. Okay? If there is significant dysrhythmia or heart block, maraming pwedeng bigay, no? You give antiarrhythmic drugs. So depende kung anong heart block, may first degree, second degree, third degree, or complete heart block. Kung halimbawa naman merong ventricular tachycardia, you do cardioversion. Yan yung kinukuryente nyo, yung sinashock. Okay? So yan. Pacing kapag may dysrhythmia, pwede kayo maglagay ng pacing, no? Yung para magkaroon siya ng normal rhythm. Okay ako pag mayroon na siyang complete heart block. Okay? Question? Wala? Sige. If you have a profound cardiac dysfunction, no, hindi gaano nagpapump yung heart, no, usually you give inotropes. Dobutamine is the primarily stimulates cardiac B1 receptors. So sa pharma, it will cause vasodilatation. It will lower the total peripheral resistance. Okay? So yun ang maganda doon. But it also lowers the systemic BP. So adequate preload is essential prior to the butamine. So ibig sabihin, yung nakikita sa hospital, bago mag-start ng inotropes, katulad ng dopamine and dobutamine, nagpapalagay yung mga internist, no, yung mga IM ng CBP, yung central venous pressure. Kasi kailangan ma-maximize muna yung fluid. Kasi pag konti yung fluid, no, hindi gaano effective ang inotrope. So usually, maglagay muna doon. Pag na-maximize na yung fluid sa katawan, then you give inotropes like dobutamine. Dopamine, bigay. So this, ang effect naman niya, vasoconstriction and meron din siyang vasodilatory, pero mas pronounced ang vasoconstriction niya. And this is preferred in treatment of cardiac dysfunction in hypotension. Kasi hypotensive para tumaas yung diastolic. Okay, but the problem is it produces tachycardia and increased total peripheral resistance. Because of this, it may worsen myocardial infarction. Okay. Epinephrine stimulates the alpha and beta receptors. It increases cardiac contractility and heart rate, increase peripheral vasoconstriction, which may impair cardiac performance. Yung amrinone naman and milrinone is for resistant cardiogenic shock. By the way, no, para lang alam niyo, if almost all patient with blood pressure of 0, no, yung ibig sabihin nag-flatline, nag-arrest, ang binibigay is epinephrine pag nag-arrest. Pero once na nag-stabilize siya, hindi epinephrine ang binibigay, no? Either DOPA or DOBU. Okay? So epinephrine usually binibigay siya pag nag-arrest. So, ano mga treatment? So, you could place intra-aortic balloon pump. Kung mahina yung pump, magbigay ka ng intra-aortic balloon pump. These are for mechanical circulatory support. And this is for resistant to cardiotonic. Halimbawa, magbigay ka na ng digoxin, hindi pa rin siya nagpa-pump na maayos. Pwede ka maglagay ng intra-aortic balloon pump para matulungan mo yung heart mag-pump. Okay, it increases cardiac output and improve coronary blood flow. So what is the treatment or the gold standard treatment for myocardial infarction? So usually yung tinatawag na stenting. So this could be done via percutaneous transluminal coronary angiography. So ibig sabihin maglalagay ka doon ng para magkaroon ng reperfusion, paluwagin mo yung blood, yung blood vessel. Okay. So this could be done in patient with ST elevation myocardial infarction or STEMI. Cardiogenic shock, left bundle branch block, age less than 75. So that is the treatment of choice. Okay. So ano ang gold standard? Halimbawa, may inaatake sa puso. Anong gold standard na para hindi para magkaroon ka ng reversible changes? Kailan kailangan malagyan ka ng stent? Anong time frame? So ang golden period for myocardial infarction is 1 hour or 60 minutes. Ibig sabihin, pag inatake ka ngayon, kailangan idala ka sa ospital na marunong mag-stenting. Ano ang mga ospital na may stenting? Meron sa Heart Center, meron sa UST, meron sa St. Luke's. Hindi ko alam kung meron sa PGH, pero ang alam ko, Makati Med din yata meron. So, ano-ano yun? Heart Center, UST, Makati Med, meron din yata, at saka St. Luke's. So, pagka inaatake, diretso doon para ma-stent ka agad. And the golden period is 60 minutes. So, within 60 minutes, kailangan ma-stent ka. Okay? Kundi, deads. Or irreversible change na. Pag medyo stable naman ang ano mo, ang barado mo, no, you could do CABG or coronary artery bypass graft or yung bypass na tinatawag. And this being done for multiple vessel disease. Diba, maraming vessel, 5 vessel. Di mag-bypass ka na lang. O kaya kung yung left main coronary artery ang disease mo at stable ka, magpa-CABG ka na. Ano mo na, halimbawa, hindi ischemia lang, hindi MI. ST depression, ischemia lang. Oo. So, magpa-schedule ka na ng CABG. Pero kung MI, you do stenting kaagad kung may i-stent. Question?
None so far po, Doc.
Sige. So, we go to the fifth type, which is obstructive shock. Yung obstructive shock naman, this is a form of cardiogenic shock. Pero yung mechanism niya, iba. Hindi yung heart ang may problema, but the problem is there is obstruction in the circulation. So, nahihirapan mag-pump si heart, hindi dahil sa problema sa heart, kundi may problema sa area o sa circulation. So, anong example niyan? Pulmonary embolism. Ito. Makita niyo yung picture sa baba, may arrow, no? Barado yung pulmonary artery. So, paano pa babalik yung blood doon? So, mahihirapan mag-pump si heart. Ano pa? Cardiac tamponade. Itong unang picture. Yung blood ngayon nasa loob ng pericardium. So, hindi maka-expand si heart. So, decrease ang kanyang venous return. Hindi siya maka-expand. So, paano pa siya magko-contract? Okay. Ano pa? Tension pneumothorax. Ito nasa right. Yung air dun sa right lang, tinutulak si heart, iniipit, papunta sa left chest. So, hindi nga maka-expand si heart. So, that is obstructive shock. So, ibig sabihin, yung circumstances rotates in the underperformance ng heart kasi hindi dahil sa heart mismo, but of the surrounding tissue. Okay? That is obstructive shock. So, ang most common cause ay pneumothorax, yung mga nasaksak, sinaksak sa chest, magkakaroon yung pneumothorax, maiipit yung heart. Okay, others are cardiac tamponade. So, there is limitation in ventricular filling in diastole. Okay. Pericardial pressure, the major determinant of degree of hypotension. So, kung mas mataas yung pericardial pressure, yung mas marami siyang dugo doon halimbawa doon sa loob ng pericardium, hindi siya lalo makapag-expand o di paano ka ngayon magpapump yung heart. Okay? So, how do you diagnose? Okay, diagnosis can be made clinically. Halimbawa, pneumothorax, so by history, alam mo na nasaksak. Nahihirapan din siya huminga kasi nga collapse yung isang lungs niya. Hypotension, naipit kasi yung heart. Decreased breath sounds kasi wala na yung lungs niya isa eh. Meron na kasing pneumothorax, hyperresonant. Pag pinarkas mo yun, hyperresonant siya kasi puro hangin na. Then yung heart kasi naiipit, tataas yung jugular pressure, so jugular distension. There is a shift to mediastinal structure on affected side with tracheal deviation. So babalik ko lang. Kung titingnan niyo itong picture sa right side, nakikita niyo yung trachea nag-deviate papunta sa left. Okay, so yan na yung tracheal deviation. Then, yung mediastinum nag-shift to the left. Wala na siya sa gitna. Okay. So yan yung makikita sa tension pneumothorax. No? Mediastinal shift to the left with tracheal deviation. Okay. So, how do you treat tension pneumothorax? Pag nakakita kayo, kung hindi kayo marunong mag-chest tube, you do needling. So, paano ginagawa dyan? You insert the largest bore needle. So, pinaka-large yata is gauge 16. Kung wala, 18. Okay. So, paano ginagawa? You can insert a needle on the second intercostal space mid-clavicular line. So, anong purpose nun? Pag tinusok mo siya, yung tension sa loob, mas mataas yung pressure sa loob kaysa sa labas. So, mangyayari, lalabas yung hangin sa butas, hindi papasok kasi mas mataas yung pressure sa loob. So, mangyayari, mag-i-equate lang. Mag-i-equal yung pressure sa labas at saka sa loob. At least wala na siyang tension. Yun ang importante kasi yung tension, iniipit si heart. Kung ayaw mo naman dyan ilagay yung needle, you could insert dun sa lateral aspect. Okay, yung triangle of safety. Anong border? So sa physical diagnosis and anatomy, tinuro na sa inyo yung anterior axillary line and posterior axillary line. Okay, and the fifth intercostal space and yung axillary fold. So diyan, pwede ka magtusok ng large bore needle kasi wala kang ibang tatamaan dyan. At saka dun sa second intercostal, kundi lungs lang kung may injure ka man. Pero dahil usually, nagde-deflate yung lungs, wala kang tatamaan pag tusok mo, lalabas lang yung hangin. Okay, that is temporary, kumbaga temporizing lang. No? Mas importanteng treatment is chest tube. You insert a tube, then you put it in a sealed water chamber. Para sa ganun, paglabas ng hangin, hindi na babalik. Mag-expand na si lungs. So that is the treatment for pneumothorax, chest tube. Pero kung wala ka yan at emergent, bago ka maglagay ng tusok mo na kagad yung needle para mawalan ng tamponad. Okay? Sige. So ano yung diagnostic workup? Anong pinapagawa pag may pneumothorax o cardiac tamponad? Cardiac tamponad pala to. So you just do an x-ray kasi cardiac tamponad usually will happen in trauma. So pa-x-ray mo para makita mo kung saan ang trajectory ng weapon. ECG, that is the preferred diagnostic treatment for cardiac tamponad. Ultrasound, detect the paracardial status. Usually ngayon may ultrasound na sa emergency room. So kung may tama yon, i-ultrasound mo lang, makikita mo may fluid, no, doon sa pericardial space. Okay. So anong treatment? Kung magbabasa kayo ng mga lumang book, may nakalagay doon pericardiocentesis. Yung pericardiocentesis, tutusukin mo na needle yung pericardium, tapos sisipsipin mo, aspirate mo. No, I have done this during my residency time, and ang problema, pwede mong yung heart pa matusok mo, ma-injury mo pa yung heart. And pwedeng hindi mo ma-evacuate ang clotted blood. So usually clotted blood siya. Pagka inaspirate mo at clotted blood, hindi mo siya makuha. So, pag gagawa ng pericardiocentesis, mas maganda ultrasound guided. Yun na ang guideline ngayon. When you do pericardiocentesis, that must be ultrasound guided. Dati kasi walang ultrasound guidance eh. Tatusok ka papunta sa left shoulder in a 45-degree angle, tapos aspirate mo. Okay. Now, ano ang kailangan gawin pag may cardiac tamponad na diagnose mo? You do pericardial window. That is the most direct method. So, paano ginagawa? Sa operating room na, bubuksan mo yung xiphoid area, pupunta ka sa pericardial sac. So, ibig sabihin yung pasyente dapat naka-general anesthesia na pag ginawa mo. So, pag may pasyenteng may cardiac tamponad, diretso na sa OR. So, in cardiac tamponad, merong signs and symptoms, no? May tinatawag na Beck's triad. So, ano yung Beck's triad? No, tandaan nyo to, ha? These are collection of signs associated with cardiac tamponad. May tatlo yon kaya triad. Ano yon? Hypotension, That is low arterial blood pressure. Ano pa? Distended neck vein, yung jugular vein mo. Ang normal distension ng neck vein is 6 to 8 centimeter. So, paano makukuha yan? Yung pasyente naka 45 degrees, ang base mo is the sternal angle of fluid. Normally, 6 to 8 centimeter yan on a perpendicular level. Kapag more than 8 to 6 to 8 centimeters water ang pressure ng neck vein, ibig sabihin distended yon. So, yun yung pangalawa. Pangatlo is distant muffled heart sound. Pag pinakinggan mo yung heart sound, no, ano siya, mahina. Okay, so yan yung triad. In addition to this, pagka meron kang cardiac tamponade, pwede may narrow pulse pressure. Halimbawa, 80/70. Pero mo 10 lang ang difference mo. Ano pa? Pulsus paradoxus. Ano yon? Pag nag-inhale yung patient, mawawala ng blood pressure. Babagsak yung blood pressure. Pag nag-exhale siya, tataas yung blood pressure. Bakit? Kasi pag nag-inhale ka, mas lalong tataas yung pressure sa chest eh. So lalong naiipit yung heart, kaya babagsak yung blood pressure mo. Pero kapag nag-exhale ka, mas less nga yung pressure sa chest, tataas ulit yung blood pressure mo. That is pulsus paradoxus. Okay. Question sa obstructive shock? Nan? Okay. So we go now to neurogenic shock. So neurogenic shock is a form of vasogenic shock. Usually seen in spinal cord injury. So take note, no? Karamihan yan spinal cord. Katulad nito, nasaksak. Ayan, no? So, or spinal anesthesia. So, when you injure the spinal cord, you will have loss of sympathetic vascular tone. So, alam naman natin yung sympathetic is vasoconstriction. Diba? So, vasomotor tone, loss of peripheral arterial bed. So, you will have increased vascular capacitance. So, nawala na yung vasoconstriction mo, magbabasodilate. You have decreased venous return and decreased cardiac output. Okay, usually secondary sa spinal cord injury, sa cervical or high thoracic, and this will disrupt your sympathetic regulation. Okay, so anong cause? Spinal cord trauma, spinal cord neoplasm, and spinal apertural anesthesia. So, paano nangyayari yon? In acute spinal cord injury, this will result to vascular compromise to the spinal cord or loss of autoregulatory vasospasm and thrombosis, loss of cellular membrane integrity and impaired energy metabolism, and neurotransmitter accumulation and release of free radicals. Okay, so how do you diagnose? May classic description yan. Okay. Ang classic description is hypotension with bradycardia. Take note na during yung hemorrhagic shock, di ba? Pag nawalan ka ng dugo, para mag-compensate ang cardiac output, anong gagawin? Magta-tachycardia. Di ba? Pero sa neurogenic shock, hypotension, pero imbis na bumilis, lalo siyang babagal. Bradycardia siya. Bakit? Mawawala ng reflex tachycardia kasi nasira ang sympathetic. Okay. Ano mangyayari sa extremity pati? Pag hinawakan mo, kapag hemorrhagic shock dahil walang dugo, magbabasoconstrict malamig. Dito sa neurogenic, warm extremity dahil nagbasodilate. Wala siyang vasoconstriction kaya vasodilate kaya warm ang extremity. Ano pa? Kapag may spinal cord injury ka, may motor and sensory deficit. Tapos radiologic evidence of fracture katulad nito. Ayan, no? So, pagka may injury doon, may fracture, alam mo, no? Kapag may fracture, most likely, tinamaan yung spinal cord. Okay, yan. Radiologic evidence. Okay, so how do you treat neurogenic shock? Airway, ventilation, fluid resuscitation. So, usually, nagre-respond sila dyan. You can give vasoconstrictors. So, this will improve vascular tone, decrease vascular capacitance, and increase venous return. Kasi yun ang kailangan mo dahil wala ka ng simpa And should only be considered once hypovolemia is excluded. Kasi dahil trauma nga ang usual cause, kailangan alam mo na normal ang blood volume mo. Okay? So, ang first choice vasoconstrictor is dopamine. So, dopamine. Okay. Phenylephrine may be used primarily kung unresponsive sa dopamine, you give phenylephrine. Okay. So, typically, this will last for 24 to 48 hours. Okay, pag na-correct. Ang problema sa neurogenic shock, cardiac dysrhythmia and hypotension may occur up to 14 days after spinal cord injury. Okay, so ibig sabihin, halimbawa, na-injured ka ngayon, pwedeng walang manifestation, pero after 14 days, saka lang siya mag-manifest. So, pwede yon, no? So, pwedeng hindi necessarily right now, ngayon na magkaroon ka ng neurogenic shock, pero hanggang 14 days, pwede pa rin. Okay? Sige. Question? So, we still got 3 minutes. Okay, so paspasan lang natin to, endpoint in resuscitation. So, very important, the goal in resuscitation is restoration of organ perfusion and tissue oxygenation. So, paano masasabi kung completed ng resuscitation, naka-okay na yung pasyente? Bayad na yung oxygen debt, wala nang acidosis, at saka meron ka ng aerobic metabolism. Okay. So, you optimize the outcome in bleeding patient. Paano? Control of hemorrhage, volume resuscitation. Expedient operative resuscitation is mandatory. Yung ngayon sinasabi natin for damage control. Okay. Attempt to stabilize an actively bleeding patient should be at the operating room. No, hindi pwedeng may saksak ka, dumudugo yung tiyan. Nasa ER mo gagawin. Wala kang gamit sa ER. So, kailangan dalhin mo yung pasyente sa operating room para kumpleto yung gamit at saka may anesthesia ka. Okay? Kaya to stabilize, go to the operating room. Okay. So, nagpasan ko na to. So, we only have 2 minutes. So, very important, no? You have 3 endpoints. You have your systemic, meron kang tissue-specific parameter and cellular parameter. Okay? So, yung endpoint, tatlo siya, systemic or global. Okay? So, yung sa systemic, kailangan mag-normal vital signs, cardiac output, pulmonary arterial pressure, oxygen delivery, and lactate-based deficit. So, lahat ito, pwede mong makita sa hospital. Pwede mong ipagawa. Mamamonitor mo siya madali kasi systemic siya. Pero yung mga cells, hindi mo pa alam kung naka-recover. Tsaka yung tissue. Kung gusto mo tissue specific, you have your gastric tonometry, tissue pH, or NIR, or near infrared spectrometry. So, yung NIR na yan, near infrared, measure yung carbon dioxide sa tissue. Okay. Cellular parameter, yan, membrane potential and ATP. Hindi mo naman masusukat yan eh. Cellular parameter na yan unless may research ka. So, hindi mo makikita sa ano yan, sa hospital. Okay? So, my source, no, yung source ko ng lecture is from Swartz. So yung exam ko, kukunin ko lang dito sa lecture. Siyempre, ito lahat na ito, galing din sa Swartz yan. So, you study Swartz. Okay? So, any questions?
Yan po, Doc.
Okay, so it's already 9 o'clock. So,